Michael Cassidy's book, Footprints in the African Sand, has been a great one for me, very inspiring, and I hope you enjoyed last week's devotions because I've got another 5 for you this week based on his book, which I hope you'll get and read for yourself. But African Enterprise, the organization that Michael Cassidy founded, did a lot of great work in South African schools. And in 1968, they did a great outreach to Michael House, one of the senior private schools in our country. The mission was described later by the principal as the greatest week in the history of the school, where 25 or 30% of the whole school came to Christian commitment, including the principal himself. And Cassidy in the book says that somehow the Lord just owned the whole thing and the Spirit did a deep work. And years later, a man named David Hotchkiss, who was there, wrote this: "Chapel had been mostly boring, worse than some lessons. But then in my matric year came the mission to Michael House. They were mostly voluntary chapel services, an opportunity to earn extra God points. I was there reluctantly on the second day and heard a different message. This was not about what I had to do for God, but what He had done for me. This was life with a different perspective. I was there every night for the rest of the week trying to get my brain around this concept. It was almost unbelievable. By the end of the week, I was convinced that I had nothing to lose by surrendering my life to God, who had made me and loved me. I came away filled with peace and purpose that I'd never experienced before. It was the start of a walk with God that continues." Shortly after, African Enterprise did another outreach at Hilton College, which is close by, and again, great scenes of people coming to Christ. It had a profound effect on the school. And in fact, Alan Smedley, who became the chaplain of Michael House, talks about his own great encounter with God at one of those missions. A lot of young people were deeply touched by God in those times. And of course, nowadays, it's difficult to get into schools to do these types of things, which is sad because our young people need to hear the good news and be transformed by it, just like anybody else does. Maybe you work at a school and you can do good work by modeling Jesus to the people there and telling the good news however you can. Maybe we need to be praying for our schools more, that God would do good work in our schools. And let's look for our own opportunities to share the gospel. Maybe it's not in a school, but maybe it's somewhere else, wherever you work, wherever you go. What an impact you could have if you had to tell people the good news that God loves them as they are. These missions by African Enterprise has a huge impact on our country, with many people changed because of them. Let's go where God sends us, friends. Share the good news with young and old alike, because who knows what our little effort to share the gospel might bring about.